Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, my name is Kelly Reagan. I live in Moortown, Vermont.
Do you believe that the central part of Vermont needs to improve its way of life? And how would you change it, or will you leave it the way it is?
There could be some improvements. I do love being here. There's a good sense of community, but I do think we need more jobs in this area. So I would hope that we can find more businesses that would come here, especially to our town of Moortown.
Would you be willing to tell us your age?
Sure, I'm 42.
How long have you lived in central Vermont?
I've lived here my entire life.
Do you have any special connections to your community?
I do. I do a lot of things with my kids in the schools and their programs, their sporting programs, and um, I also have been on many boards, soccer boards, Little League boards, been involved with scouting, both Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
What do you think is the best thing about central Vermont?
As I said before, I love the sense of community and knowing a lot of the people that are around here.
What's the most important thing to you? What's the what's most important to you about why you live here?
My family's here. As I said, I grew up here, so all of my family is still here. So I like being close to my family and all of the people that I've known since I've grown up.
What made you decide to move here?
Actually, I didn't move here because I grew up here. I stayed here because I found I was able to find work as a young adult and met my husband who also grew up here, so we just kind of decided it was a good place to raise our kids, so we stayed.
What is your favorite place to go here? What do you like about this place?
I enjoy actually going out and spending time outdoors in the woods in my garden, so I love just being outside. And I don't think I would enjoy being in a city where I couldn't be outside that much.
What changes have you seen since you lived here?
When I was a child, there became a expansion of the number of families and houses and people that moved into the community, but now I'm seeing we don't have the same number of kids and families that were here when I was a child. The school size is shrinking.
What changes do you like and what changes do you not like?
Wow. I don't know. Changes do I like? I don't really know how to answer that one. I guess I just like that I grew up here, and as I said, I like knowing the community, like knowing the people. It is hard to get to know people that are moving in, even though we still have people moving in, but we all get along, and so I enjoy it. I don't think I would change much, other than more jobs to keep people here.
What do you wish to change?
Like I said, just I think we need to keep people here, keep the young kids that are growing up here staying in Vermont, so we need more jobs in this area.
Do you have any interesting stories about central Vermont or a place within central Vermont?
The only thing that I think is interesting is there's a lot of tales about that Emily's Bridge in Stowe, so I always enjoyed going there as a kid and checking that out around Halloween, so that's kind of interesting. But other than that, I can't think of anything.
What type of job do you have?
I'm actually a systems developer, and I work for this actual state of Vermont for the tax department. So I code computer systems.
Why do you think people leave central Vermont?
I think people might find better jobs elsewhere, or they just want to go to the city. I don't really know.
What do you think selling points would be to encourage a young person to stay in central Vermont?
making sure that they can afford to live here and find a job so that they can.
If you grew up here, which you did, where did your parents work 30, 40, and 50 years ago?
Both of my parents initially worked at GE in Burlington, and then they decided to move to this area from Winooski, and my mother was a chambermaid, and my father was a salesman on the road selling fertilizer and feed to farmers.
How have the downtowns changed?
Actually, I think they're rebuilding many downtowns, which I think is a really cool thing and really neat because it keeps people in the community in shops and stores and helps out the mom and pops businesses.
How have the smaller villages changed?
I don't actually think, like, Moortown Village really hasn't changed much at all since I've grown up. Still looks the same.
What is the most important thing we can do to ensure we grow sustainably?
We just need to make sure that, as far as development, that we don't become too big too quickly, and we need to ensure as a whole that there's enough food for all the people that are living in a particular area.
What do you think are the biggest strengths of Central Vermont economy?
The biggest strengths would probably be the largest businesses, which would be coffee roasters, actually the state of Vermont itself, Ben and Jerry's, and there's also Cabot Cheese and some of those things. Those are the biggest businesses that I can think of.
What are your biggest concerns for the economy in Central Vermont?
In Central Vermont, I think one of the biggest concerns I have right now is like the dump closing and us having to send our trash somewhere else. But as a whole, I think more of the state and that we overspend more than what we need to in the school systems as well.
Do you have any other interesting facts about yourself or about Central Vermont?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you mind introducing yourself?
My name is John Egan. I live in Moortown, Vermont.
Do you believe that the central part of Vermont needs to improve its way of life, and how would you change it, or would you leave it the way it is?
I love the way it is. I might make it a little more business friendly. I'd like to see more industry move in and amongst wherever we live.
Would you be willing to tell us your age?
Boy, I'm so old I don't know if I can remember it, but I'm pretty sure I'm 55.
How long have you lived in Central Vermont?
37 years.
Do you have any special connections to your community?
Um, it's a wonderful community, and I've been in construction for many years. So I was involved in building some of the nice buildings in town. A lot of them on the road that we live on, and all throughout the community. And I really enjoy interacting with most age groups in the community. It's awesome.
What do you think is the best thing about Central Vermont?
Smack dab in the middle of everything. Who doesn't want to be, the hub that the spoke spins around?
What's most important to you about why you live here? What made you decide to move here?
Living in the mountains is what I really wanted to do. I love the mountain community. I love the weather, and I like the people that like mountains. So I like living in this community.
What is your favorite place to go here? What do you like about the place?
I think all the hiking trails and the skiing trails and the amount of wilderness that's available to us is really makes this area special. It's full of wildlife and beautiful views.
What changes do you like? No. What changes have you seen since they you've lived here?
Um, what changes have I seen since I've lived here? A lot more people um, moved into the area. A lot less cows. A lot of cows left. I think there was twice as many cows in the town as people when I first moved in. And I think we have one dairy farm left in Moortown. So it's a big change. But I have seen farming take off in other ways, and organic farming's huge. And I see people doing smaller operations, but bringing farming back. So as much as it's changed, it's staying the same, just busier.
What changes do you like and what changes do you not like?
Oh, I don't know if I don't like or do like any of them. I think I just live with them, and it's, the world's a metamorphosis. Might as well be part of it.
What do you wish would change?
I would like to see more industry, like I said earlier. I think we should approve some of these things that people want to do with their land, whether it's a quarry or, a solar plant. I think we should allow that.
Do you have any interesting stories about Central Vermont or a place within Central Vermont?
This place is really special to me. I first moved here 37 years ago, and it wrapped its arms around me and taught me how to ski. So that's been my career, and I appreciate that from all the people that live here.
What type of job do you have?
I have a job where I ski all the time. I'm a chief recreational officer at Sugarbush Resort in Warren, Vermont.
Why do you think people leave Central Vermont?
I think it's natural to leave an area you grow up in, but I spoke to a couple college students today that feel like they're moving back, and I think most people will come back to their roots and whatever. But as young adults, I think most people reach out and will explore the U.S., and I think that we educate and explore or introduce exploring to most of our students in this state. So I think they're going to naturally go out and expand their horizons, but I think they'll all want to come home eventually.
What do you think selling points would be to encourage a young person to stay in Central Vermont?
Really healthy environment, lots of stuff to do outside, and a lot of great food to eat, a lot of nice farming communities, and lots of interesting opportunities if you keep your eyes open.
If you grew up here, where did your parents work 30, 40, and 50 years ago?
I did my growing here, but I grew up in Boston. So my folks worked in the school system and in the medical profession.
How have the downtowns changed?
Um, Boy, the downtowns are reviving. I don't know. They just rebuilt Barry. That's kind of cool. I like that. Montpelier seems to be thriving, and I think it always has been. Like I say, I think it's just more populated and more busier, or busier. Most busiest. I'll let you correct the English. You're still in school.
How have the smaller villages changed?
Well, I think the villages haven't changed as much as the rural environment. You're seeing a lot of farms go under and then break up into 10, 15, 5-acre lots. So you're seeing the rural landscape change into looking more like a suburban landscape rather than a farming community.
What is the most important thing we can do to ensure we grow sustainably?
Open communication through all channels and understanding all parts and how they fit together and actually work together and could work together.
What do you think are the biggest strengths of Central Vermont economy?
Biggest strengths? Boy, we have a great place to live, so who wouldn't want to work in a community that, is just great to live in? And we have a nice highway that goes north and south. We're close to the Canadian border. There's lots of people willing to work, and they're pretty smart, intelligent, innovative folks, so really great workforce.
What are your biggest concerns for the economy in Central Vermont?
Um, Possibly that it costs too much to run a business, or that most people would rather not have a business in their town. They'd like to centralize that, and that doesn't always work out. And the heating costs are huge in this state. People need to understand how to create cheaper energy and insulate.
Do you have any other interesting facts about Central Vermont or about yourself?
A lot of diverse wildlife in this area, and that's kind of cool. And I've traveled all over the world, and I think this is the best place to live. So that's an interesting fact.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you, Kyle.
Do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, my name is Barbara Friedsam.
Do you believe that the central part of Vermont needs to improve its way of life, and how would you change it, or would you leave it the way it is?
I think there's a very high quality of life for lots of people in Vermont. I think there's nooks and crannies of very innovative and entrepreneurial and good living, and I think there's also some need for social assistance, and paying attention to that big gap that goes in the middle is going to be important for Central Vermont.
Would you be willing to tell us your age?
Yeah, I'm 43.
How long have you lived in Central Vermont?
7 years? 7 years.
Do you have any special connections to your community?
I feel very connected to my community here. Obviously, our family lives here, and my parents also have a house and live here at times, and I work in town, so I feel very connected to the community.
What do you think is the best thing about Central Vermont?
I think the best thing about it is how rural and community oriented it is, but it's so close to Boston and New York and Montreal.
What's most important to you about why you live here? What made you decide to move here?
What's most important is the work-life balance and how it all seems to mix together. And I moved here to be with my husband. There's worse lives.
What is your favorite place to go here? What do you like about that place?
My favorite place to go? Any time of the year? Anything? What, Jen? Remind me. Oh, I do love the Bobbin Mill. The Bobbin Mill is a really good place to go any time of year because it's very accessible and very beautiful and historic and close.
What changes have you seen since you lived here?
The changes that I've seen since I've lived here, well, the changes I've seen have really been around Sugarbush and seeing what Wynn has done in Warren and at the mountain and how that affects town. his investment in both his business and the community at large.
What changes do you like, and what changes do you not like?
I really like that we're getting things like sidewalks. I like the Bridge Street revitalization happening in Waitsfield. I like the road widening for bicycles. I don't necessarily like some of the politics that go into those decisions and how they get decided on whether we accept money to help with municipal upgrades or not. Oh, I guess a big change would have also been Irene. I saw that big change happen and how we dealt with that. That was a big community moment, but that wasn't your question. Sorry.
What do you wish would change?
What do I wish would change? Probably around not having entire education be based on property tax would be great.
Do you have any interesting stories about Central Vermont or a place within Central Vermont?
What?
Such a cool place 1% wanted to be here.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a good story. Well, the place I work is a global organization that thought this was such an amazing epicenter of both business and entrepreneurialism and environmental concern that it chose this as its headquarters.
What type of job do you have?
I work for 1% for the planet.
Why do you think people leave Central Vermont?
Well, John talked about the kids leaving, and I think that's true anywhere. Kids always go, and then whether they come back or not is to be determined. But I think adults leave for probably the expense of living here and not having the financial opportunity that you need in order to stay comfortably living. Opportunity.
What do you think selling points would be to encourage a young person to stay in Central Vermont?
I think there's a ton of very cool things happening and evolving here in Vermont. I do think it's one of the most innovative states in the nation, and I think there's incredible business here, whether it's Ben and Jerry's or Cabot Cheese or Seventh Generation. That is just outstanding that happens in such a small state, and that if you look around and work hard and meet people, you could really find some incredible opportunity. What?
You didn't grow up here, right?
I did not grow up here.
How have the downtowns changed?
The downtowns?
Yeah.
Well, I said a little bit earlier, I lived here through Irene, and so we watched the downtowns get flooded and then rebuilt, and they're still in the process of having that happen. I think that people are trying to figure out how to live near a river and during these times of climate change, and what they're going to give up and what they're not going to give up, and how we're going to knit together as a tight community in these downtowns. So I feel like that's probably the most tangible change I've seen.
How have the smaller villages changed?
The smaller villages? I think probably just the sidewalks in my mind. I'm thinking the towns, not necessarily the rural parts, but the towns. I feel like the sidewalks are a big deal. It's suggesting that we get out of our cars more and say hi to our neighbors more and go for walks and make it just a little bit more accessible to everyone.
What is the most important thing we can do to ensure we grow sustainably?
The most important thing we can do to ensure what?
To grow sustainably.
Oh, to grow sustainably. Well, I think there has to be a really good balance between growth and legacy and cultural values, and we have to evolve and to never grow too fast. We to find that sweet spot and make sure we are We are listening to everyone involved, knowing that change is scary, and really keep growing. It's important.
What do you think are the biggest strengths of Central Vermont economy?
Probably the people that run it. I think there's really bright minds behind a bunch of businesses and economic planning that are bringing us and actually the country and world to a new place. So the humans behind it all.
What are your biggest concerns for the economy in Central Vermont?
Um, Probably being business friendly again, making sure that the sustainable businesses want to stay in the state, and there's plenty of opportunity and in hiring going from people who live in Vermont already, as opposed to recruiting from the outside.
Do you have any other interesting facts about Central Vermont or about yourself?
No. I married this guy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kyle. My high school service class at Howard Union High School is working on a project to gain a better understanding of what local people want the community to look like 10 years from now. Would you be willing to answer a quick question for us?
Sure.
Great, thanks. I'm using my headphones as a microphone to reduce background noise. Do you believe that the central part of Vermont needs to improve its way of life, and how would you change it, or would you leave it the way it is?
I think Central Vermont area, the Mad River Alley especially, they need to be a little more friendly for businesses. I've seen quite a few businesses leave Vermont. The Mad River Canoe, Burton Snowboards isn't really here anymore. That's all, a tax base that's left Vermont.
We are collecting data for the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. Is it okay if we share your thoughts with them on YouTube?
Sure.
Would you be willing to tell us your age and the town you live in?
I'm 55 and I live in Moortown, Vermont.
How long have you lived in Central Vermont?
I've lived here over 15 years.
Do you have any special connections to your community?
My children have gone through all the schools. I work at the hospital, so I live and breathe here.
What do you think is the best thing about Central Vermont?
It has decreased crime rate. Kids have plenty of things to do. Climbing, hiking, all kinds of other extra activities.
What's most important to you about why you live here? What made you decide to move here?
I moved here because of the scenery and the decreased crime rate. And space to grow. Lots of space around here.
What is your favorite place to go here? What do you like about that place?
My favorite place is probably Mount Abram and hiking it in the summertime.
What changes have you seen since you've lived here?
I've seen a little bit more growth. I've seen the population of the schools decrease. I've seen the Moortown dump close, which I don't think was a great idea, but
What changes do you like and what changes do you not like?
I do like there's a few more houses and a little more growth, not too much. Again, I don't like that I've seen businesses leave here because it's not a business-friendly place. We seem to not be able to keep a business, and we keep losing our tax bases for that business, for those businesses.
What do you wish would change?
Again, I think we need to be a little more open to businesses and being business friendly. You've seen some, brand names here go into North Carolina and to other places. The one I think most of is Matter of a Canoe is in North Carolina. It's not in Vermont.
Do you have any interesting stories about Central Vermont or a place within Central Vermont?
I can't think of any.
What are you proud of in Central Vermont?
I don't know.
What type of job do you have?
I work as a nurse. I work as a nurse at Central Vermont Hospital
Why do you think people leave Central Vermont?
because they can't find jobs to support themselves.
What do you think selling points would be to encourage a young person to stay in Central Vermont?
That they can find a job to support themselves, that they can find a house to live in, that they can afford to live in. They have taxes they can afford to pay. All of those things.
How have the downtowns changed?
How have the downtowns changed? I'm not sure we have it. We don't have a downtown in Moortown. I think the downtown is pretty much the same. I haven't seen a difference. I haven't lived here long enough, I think.
How have the smaller villages changed?
Again, the village of, the town of Moortown looks the same to me. I don't think I've lived here long enough to see the changes. I think you'd have to pick someone who's lived here all their life.
What is the most important thing we can do to ensure we grow sustainably?
I guess to get businesses that work within our community that can stay here and survive. If we want to be sustainable, we have to something that will, again, put money into our tax base, jobs for people to stay here. Houses people can afford to live in that are new. Young couples pretty much can't afford to buy a house up here anymore.
What do you think are the biggest strengths of Central Vermont economy?
I'm not sure.
What are your biggest concerns for the economy in Central Vermont?
Again, businesses leaving, the school population's decreasing, the school budget's going up, less students, costs more money. We have nothing, we have no businesses here to support it. We don't even have, the town dump, which was a good tax base. We can't, it seems we could figure out a way to make the town dump work for everybody, not just the people who live near the dump and complain about the smell.
What are your biggest concerns for the... Do you have any other comments about Central Vermont and or about yourself?
Not at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Kyle. My high school civics class at Howard Union High School is working on a project to gain a better understanding of what local people want the community to look like 10 years from now. Would you be willing to answer a quick question for us?
Yes, I will.
Do you believe that Central Vermont needs to improve its way of life, and how would you change it, or would you leave it the way it is?
I think it needs to improve, as I think Mother said, attracting businesses and a diverse economy. A little bit more development, but not a whole lot of development, not overdeveloping.
We are collecting data for the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. Is it okay if we share your thoughts with them on YouTube?
Yes, you may.
Would you be willing to tell us your age and the town you live in?
Almost 55. I live in Moortown, Vermont.
How long have you lived in Central Vermont?
Since 1998.
Do you have any special connections to your community?
Well, is being part of the local community here where we live, and you kids growing up in the school system, taking part in activities in school and outside of school. We work here. We have friends here.
What do you think is the best thing about Central Vermont?
Well, it offers a lot for us. That's why we chose to move here. We like being able to do various things outside, outdoor activities, as well as being located next to Montpelier and Burlington and some small towns. It offers us many things.
What's your most important to you about why you live here? What made you decide to move here?
It has to be the lifestyle. Like I said, instead of living in a larger community, a larger city where we used to live, came from initially, was something a little more laid back.
What is your favorite place to go here? What do you like about that place?
I enjoy the hiking, the mountains, the trails. I kind of like the woods quite a bit.
What changes have you seen since you lived here?
No great changes. It has. I've seen more in Burlington than here in Moortown, but there has been growth. No drastic changes as of yet.
What changes do you like and what changes do you not like?
Oh, I don't know about which ones I like. I'm concerned about some of the wind farm development and things like that have an effect on the area. What I like is there has been growth, moderate growth in some of the businesses, small businesses, and diversity of the people that live here, cultural.
What do you wish would change?
What do I wish would change? I'd like to see improvement in the state as far as generating income for the state, widen the tax base. I heard Mother say that, and a lot of it is put on the homeowners and landowners tax-wise. It gets to be quite expensive.
Do you have any interesting stories about Central Vermont or a place within Central Vermont?
No, none that I can think of.
What are you proud of with Central Vermont?
It is quite a friendly, outgoing area. kind of good community feeling.
What type of job do you have?
I work for the postal system, postal service.
Why do you think people leave Central Vermont?
What was the question?
Why do you think people leave Central Vermont?
Well, many want to try other things and explore and experiment. Others are looking for opportunities that may not be here as far as job-wise.
What do you think selling points would be to encouraging a young person to stay in Central Vermont?
Well, you'd have to offer them what they are looking for. If the opportunity is not here, they have to find it elsewhere, whether it's educational opportunity, jobs, perhaps they just want to try a different lifestyle and they may or may not come back. They have to decide on their own.
How have the downtowns have changed?
Downtown, well, downtown Moortown hasn't changed a whole lot. I would like to see some growth, particularly on the Route 2 corridor. I'd like to